In Chicago during the late summer of 1994, there was an alleged feud between two street gangs, the Maniac Latin Disciples and the Insane Dragons. And on September 1st, a car pulled up in front of an apartment building on West Cortlandt Avenue and opened fire on a group of young people, including 20-year-old Jacqueline Grande. While recovering from a gunshot wound to the back, detectives showed Grande two photo lineups, and she identified two alleged members of the Insane Dragons, including then 19-year-old Roberto Almodovar. And that ID was all it took to send Roberto away for the rest of his life. But this is Wrongful Conviction. Welcome back to Wrongful Conviction. We don't usually give our episodes names that include epithets, but if we did, and we were going to name this one, I would probably call it the Chicago Clusterfuck. Because this episode, it's kind of a perfect encapsulation of so many different problems in Chicago law enforcement circles, and even on a broader level. Of people's attitudes towards certain members of the community. And it's a really important episode for that reason. And another reason why is because one of our guests today, I'm going to introduce now, Jennifer Bongine of Bongine Law Group. I'm excited to have her here today because you may be the only guest I've had that curses as much as I do. So that could be, you may want to get
Not be a G-rated episode.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask our Connor Hall if we can put our producer Connor Hall if we can put out a bleeped version for people who have sensitive ears, because you might hear some. Oh no, he's waving me off on that one. No, it's not going to happen. So yeah. So just fasten your seatbelt. Jennifer, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And with us today is the man of the hour. We're recording here at the Innocence Network conference with a guy I met, which was very fortuitous and serendipitous last year at the Innocence Network conference in Phoenix. Now we're in New Orleans. Roberto Almodovar, who goes by Robert. So Robert Almodovar. Robert, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Sharing your story. And thanks, because last year you were the guy who told me about Jimmy Soto.
Absolutely.
And I was very right place, right time, happy to be able to be of some assistance to the team that was working to free him. And my incredible partner in life and justice, Clea, and I were very privileged to walk him out of prison among a very large group of supporters on a cold day outside of Chicago in Stateville Prison. So it's just incredible that he's here and that you're here. And we're going to get to the story in a second, but he was actually you guys were sharing a cell together.
Yeah, we
right?
we were cellmates in Menard Correctional Center. We were studies for about 2 or 3 years, and it's he's like a legend in prison because he's very good with the law. He helped like guys get home, and whenever he hear his name, like, man, who is this guy? And then later on, he ended up becoming my cellie. So it was great. I picked his mind. He helped me out, and eventually he got me home.
Well, that was you and a number of the other exonerees told me last year that he was the guy who got you home. And I was like, well, that's crazy that he's got everybody else home and he's still there. So fortunately, he's not there anymore. And he's never going back. And he's actually going to law school this fall to Northwestern. It's going to be, it's one of the greatest stories I've heard in all my years of doing this. And you have, you and he are like these incredible, like Avengers. It's like, and you'll hear more about that. But before we get to that part, because that's like, we don't want to give away too much of the end of the story, but we're obviously here, which is great. But how you got here is, it's horrifying. I mean, it's really horrifying. I mean, you ran into one of the worst, most corrupt, most dangerous cops in the country, who's been responsible for countless wrongful convictions and incredible, huge amounts of payouts to the people who he wronged, that the taxpayers of Chicago have had and Illinois have had to foot those bills. But here's where it starts, right? It's another Chicago case. It seems like we may have more Chicago cases than anywhere else, which is crazy because
wrongful conviction capital of the world, I think they say.
Wow, it's so crazy. It's counterintuitive, right? Because you'd think it would be like Texas or Alabama or something. Nope. Nope. Right there in Chicago, right? Chicago. Nice blue Chicago. So before we get into and this is this is a horrible crime too. I mean, this is a hyper violent situation.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple people shot, 2 people killed. You know, something out of a movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's real, very real, very real.
Absolutely.
And you know, and I mean, when you get to it, everyone in the neighborhood and everyone in Chicago is really a victim here, because when you lock up the wrong person, the real perpetrators remain free. And we see that time and again. And then they go on to commit more acts of violence. Imagine how low the crime rate would be if they actually tried to get the real people in these actual crimes that really do happen. So
you mean if they cared about the victims?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and or the citizens, or anything, or the people who are, or anything like that. No,
all interchangeable.
So, but before this happened, what was your life like growing up?
My life growing up was, you know, my mom raised me and my brothers and sisters, you know, single home. We live in the Home Park area, and basically all my life. And back then, back in '94, I mean, growing up, it was, you know, gang infected. You got Maniac Disciples. You got Spanish Coerced, Instant Dragons, gangs all over the world. I mean, all around the area. You got, you know, drug dealers, stuff like that. You know, it's just a low income neighborhood, empty lots everywhere, and basically, just, you know, it's kind of to live in, you know, it's, you live in that area all your life, so to you it's like kind of norm, you know, the shooting and stuff like that, and you know, it's to other people from outside looking in, you think it's crazy, which it is at the end of the day. But growing up in that area, you'd be like, it is what it is, you know. You just got to dodge and leave, you know. But as growing up, you also got to remember, you got to survive in the same neighborhood, and when you survive as a neighborhood, you got to end up turning to, you know, into a gang, you know, from the area from you live at. But my mom, she tried to do her best, but my mom also was, how you say it, she was kind of abusive, you know. She should, you know, hit me and my brother, my sisters a lot growing up. She'd make us kneel in the corner with beans, raw beans, you know. Yes, and she would extension cords, belt buckles, you know. My mom was rough, you know, growing up. And then also living in that neighborhood was also rough too. So my dad, he didn't live with us. He lived somewhere else, of course, in Humboldt Park. My dad was he was basically a drug user, you know, all my life. And growing up, I see a lot of things growing up, you know, people shooting up, you know, and I see what it do to people, you know. And then my stepfather, my mom boyfriend, he also did drugs too, and I seen it growing up, and I see what drugs do to people. So when I was growing up, I feel like, man, I'm not gonna do no drugs. I'm not gonna do none of that. I'm gonna stay away from that shit. And you know, I was a quiet kid, laid back. You know, never got into no trouble growing up. You know, and I tried to get good grades, but I was average. You know, in school, and then as I got older, in my teens, that's when, you know, the gangs came into my life, because at the time, my mom was living in Kings neighborhood, and my grandfather's house, my father's side, lived over there by Humboldt Park and Augusta and Fairfield. Over there was folks and people. At the time, you know, my father, you know, he had 3 sisters, and he had like 2 more brothers. And one of his sisters is my aunt Gladys, and she basically kind of took me in. Whenever summer vacation came, she'd come pick me up. I stayed with her, and she like a mom figure. She's like my mother, basically. You know, she gave me that love, that attention that I didn't get from my own mom, my own mother. And so whenever I get a chance, I go over there to spend time with them. And the thing about it was kind of cool, because back in my mind, they don't talk. My father's side, my mother's side, they don't talk. So you got this young kid walking this far distant over here to my father's house, my grandfather's house. They'd be like, "How you got here?" "Oh, I came with my mom." Because I know they're going to call my mom and ask my mom. But the problem is getting back home. I'd be late at night, and so they always drop me off. My uncle or my aunt would drop me off at my house, at my mom's house. And it's been like that since growing up, going back and forth.
It's a crazy triangulation. You had mom with the violence, dad with the drugs, Latin Kings on one side, insane Dragons gang on the other side, and you're caught in the middle. This little kid bouncing around on the streets. It's a crazy. I mean, it was the way you grew up, so maybe it didn't seem that crazy to you, but I'm sure it sounds crazy to most people. The idea that this 7-year-old kid is having to go through all of this it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a miracle you came out, after everything you've been through. You're one of the most sane people I know. I can't believe we're here with 1,200 people. I mean, there's a lot of crazy people here, but
mind blown about his ability to, his resilience.
It's incredible, and more power to you. So, one of the things that stuck out to me when I was, and we're going to get into the crime itself in about 30 seconds here, but when I was researching your case, I mean, I knew about it, but I didn't know all the details like I wanted to in advance of this recording. I'm reading about how you were categorized as a member of the Insane Dragons gang, and then I'm looking at the alibi, which is a powerful alibi, by the way, and the alibi says that Roberto worked an 11-hour shift at Farley's Chocolate Company on August 31st, 1994, and left work at 5 p.m., then took a bus to Wilbur Wright College where he attended a class until 10 p.m., and then took a bus home where he remained the rest of the night. That would make you the world's most industrious and studious and responsible gang member in the history of the gang culture, right? I mean, I'm not... And I was like, wait, is this a misprint? I'm like, but there's a very logical... sad explanation for why that is, which you were explaining to me before, that basically you were just categorized as a gang member depending what block you lived on. That's what gang the police would sort of file you away under that, right?
Absolutely. Well, during that time, I was part of the gang, but I wasn't like hardcore member. I just did just survive and protection at the time, and then my girlfriend got pregnant. So when she got pregnant, I was like, man, I want to be there for my daughter. I want to be able to raise her and support her. And I know by being that lifestyle, I won't be able to. So I left it alone. We moved in with my aunt and got a job, and I went to Wright College to try to get my GED. And Wright College basically provide, once you get your GED, you can pick up a trade. So the trade I was going to become is electrician. And that's my goal. Save up money, get my own place, and be there for my daughter. Because I know already that lifestyle ain't gonna get you nowhere. I want to be there for my kid, for my daughter. That's my goal. That's it. Be there for my daughter.
Yeah, he had left all that behind, and was really on the right path.
Yeah, incredibly. I mean, that's not easy to get out either.
No.
And certainly incredible journey to transcend. Like I said, all the stuff you went through as a child that no child should ever go through. And so here you were doing the right things, and then here comes the Chicago clusterfuck, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
And I'm just going to read from this, right? So shortly before 1 a.m. on September 1st, 1994, a car pulled up in front of an apartment building in the 3900 block of West Cortlandt Avenue in Chicago. A passenger fired several gunshots at a group of people. Amy Merquez and Jorge Rodriguez, who were both 18 years old, were killed. 20-year-old Jacqueline Grande was shot in the back, but she survived. And another teenager named Kennelly Saez dove behind a parked car when the shots erupted and somehow miraculously escaped injury. What a scene. And then a name that will live in infamy, who our listeners will recognize, gets involved, and the shit hits the fan. Yes. And that is, of course, Chicago Police Detective Reynaldo Guevara. So, Jennifer, take us through how this nightmare unfolded.
Yeah, it's when I started handling these cases involving Ray Guevara, I first came with this idea that when you were framed by a police officer, there must be some reason, like you have some prior history, there's some retaliation, there's something, right? It's just so illogical. And what I came to learn, and Robert's case is a perfect example of it, is No. Sometimes he just framed people because he could, and he didn't care who it was. Robert had no prior involvement with Ray Guevara, had never crossed paths with him. There was a gang officer named Mark Olszewski who basically terrorized Robert on the streets. Robert's girlfriend lived in an area where this police officer sort of lived. It was right kind of adjacent to Humboldt Park. Not his, I would say more white. I think at that time, right? It was.
Yeah, yuppies. A yuppie area by the Brickyard area.
Yeah.
And she was staying over there, and my cousin also lived over there too. And I was staying there for the summertime, during the summertime with my cousin, and that's how I met my girlfriend. And during that time I was over there, Olszewski always harassed me. I was just, because I stand out, I had the baggy clothes, pushed back, I had shaggy hair.
He was a pretty boy.
If you say, okay, I was. So every time he see me, he put me over. And one time he asked me, where you from? I said, I'm from Humboldt Park. He's like, man, take your spick ass back to Humboldt Park because you're not going to fuck up this area.
Right.
I'm like, I looked at him, I'm like, really? And ever since then, he's just keep on harassing me.
Yeah. And I think what happened is, this shooting happens on September 1st. The police are, Area 5 with Guevara being, the big player there, are more interested in just finding someone to put it on. They're not interested in getting the right person. They're not interested in finding justice for the family of these victims. They are interested in closing a case as quickly as possible. And it doesn't matter who, because all of the young Latino men in Humboldt Park are fungible, interchangeable, doesn't matter. And
it's a body for a body, right?
Exactly. It did not matter. I mean, it's just became very clear that it did not matter who it was. There was nothing about, letting the facts lead you to, what detectives are supposed to do. And Olszewski was like, I got a guy for you. Because I know this kid. And essentially, and Guevara was like, cool. We'll put it on this kid, essentially. And the way they would do it is they would work backwards. They would decide based on where the shooting took place and which gangs were at odds with each other, and then say, well, it must be someone from this gang. And then we will narrow the pool from there. So this shooting, they came up with the idea that it was an insane dragon. There's actually never been any real good evidence that the shooting was carried out by an insane dragon. They had some goofy ass theory. They always do. They're not very good, even when they try to be. But that's what they started with. So because Robert's prior association was with the insane dragons, and this Olszewski guy, had it out for Robert, he basically said, and here's an interesting piece of this. Robert had no background, no criminal background. He had a couple little
mob action.
Yeah, but arrests, no conviction. His rap sheet looks better than mine. Okay, I ain't kidding about that. He was a really, all things considered, good kid. And so when Olszewski decided that he was going to be it, and and got Guevara, they didn't have any photos of him because he really had not been in much trouble. So Olszewski arranged. He's like, I know where this kid's cousin hangs out. So they literally did a pretextual arrest of him and his cousin, so that they get the Polaroid of him to then go manipulate the witnesses. So they brought him in, and they took a photo.
Yeah, it was about, because my cousin, he was harassing my cousin too, and so my uncle decided, you know what, we're gonna sell the house, we're gonna move, because this guy keep on harassing his son also. And that night she talking about, Olszewski came by, flashed the light at the house, and at the time the house is empty basically. It's just couch, refrigerator, and my cousin's like, man, I'm gonna go talk to him. I'm like, man, I'll go out there and talk to him, man. You can walk in here, he's gonna see us, he's gonna think, he's gonna be on some bullshit basically. And sure enough, that's what happened. As soon as Olszewski walked in, he seen us, get on the fucking floor. I like, wait a minute, where's your warrant at? You can't just do this. He's like, shut the fuck up. Hit me in the back of the head with the pistol. Lay us down. He wait for two. The backup came. searched the house, and somehow they found a duffel bag with a sawed-off shotgun. And
Allegedly.
And they had us on the ground. They snatched my cousin up. They took him to the back room. And you could hear him just hit him, beat up my cousin. Boom, boom, boom. And he come out the room. He crying. He said, man, cuz, do you know anything about this murder that happened? I said, man, I don't know nothing about no damn murder. So you got to tell me something. I said, I don't know nothing, bro. I don't know shit. And they took him back, beat him up some more. And after that, they took all of us to Grand Central. It was like 4 of us. And they put us in a room, sitting down on a bench. And mind you, like I got arrested by Shesky so many times. I be by myself. He locked me up for mob action. I'm like, what the fuck? And,
just release him then. Just harassment.
Just harassment. Then I've been in so many, and he never took my Polaroid picture ever. So this time around, he went to the drawer and put out that camera, the Polaroid camera. And back in my mind, I knew right away, he going to try to set one of us up with that murder that happened. He came down the line, took our pictures. I'm shaking my head like, what the fuck? And then we go to lockup and asked the turnkey, why they locking us up. We was inside the house. He read the police report. In the police report, he said that he got an anonymous phone call from the neighbors saying that you guys are in front of the house making a lot of noise. I said, man, that's bullshit. We were inside the house, not outside. Well, that's what the police report said. I'm like, what the fuck? So they lock us up for malfunction.
But they let you go.
Right. They let me go like 4 hours later. Then like 2 weeks later or a week later, I get arrested for this murder.
Yeah, September 11th. So it was 10 days after the crime.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, they had to go, manipulate the witnesses and do all that. And I should point out that Robert had an airtight alibi for the time of the crime.
Absolutely.
He was, as you pointed out, initially he had worked at Farley's Candies where his aunts worked.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this isn't just testimony. This was all backed up by neutral third parties, Farley Candy managers, people who, obviously vouched for, he had to clock in and out. This was not something that, his aunt said it. And then he went to his classes.
Twice a week.
Yep. And even his teacher signed an affidavit long ago saying, yeah, he was in class that night. I remember him. And then, he took the bus home and, from there, his girlfriend wasn't home with the baby, and he was kind of upset that it was so late and she wasn't home with the baby, and she got home. And what is kind of interesting development is they have this vicious fight, not like a physical fight, but a screaming match, yelling for like hours. And his aunts actually even called his cousin, who is married to his girlfriend's sister. So it's like a big family, and said, Junior, they call him Junior in the family, Junior and Sassy are fighting. Can you come try to,
calm down?
Yeah, and just, I don't know, mediate.
Yeah.
And they came. There were so many alibi witnesses. There were the aunt, your nephew, your cousin's wife, a literal neighbor heard the fight. And this is all at the exact same time that this murder was going down.
It's crazy because I'm just thinking about a split screen. It's sort of ironic that you have this hyper violent scene, right, where 3 people are shot and someone else is traumatized, not shot, but 2 are killed.
Yeah.
And then you, meanwhile, are at a candy store, right? Like how ironic, a freaking candy store, and then at school,
right?
And then, then there's the fight with the wife, which, listen, I don't know anyone who has never had a fight with their significant other.
Yeah, it was an argument. It was an argument, but it was funny because the neighbor, and I've spoken to the neighbor, and he's testified, he gave a deposition in this civil case. And, they were sort of laughing about it the next day. Oh, I heard, I heard the fight. I heard Robert Jr. and Sassy fighting. It was just one of those, at night usually, it's hard to have an alibi because you're usually sleeping or in your house, and the only people that can vouch for you is family, and a jury immediately discounts family. But here you have like third parties verifying all of this, and unfortunately,
of course, that didn't matter. I mean, you could have been playing center for the Bulls in front of 20,000 people. They still would have, convicted you,
I
right?
mean,
Because
you got
that's
a cop
the way
coming
it went.
in, all the scary gang stuff, that they would throw, the prosecutors would, center their cases around, and then you have eyewitnesses who are not really eyewitnesses. So this case has, it has everything. It has police misconduct, and it then has eyewitness identification, manipulation. And so Guevara basically took a Polaroid of Robert and got Ken Eliseas, who was in a gang, and obviously his best friend is shot and killed. Emotions running high, and a cop says to you, "This is the guy who did it," and you want vengeance, and a cop's telling you he did it. I'll go along with that, sure. Even though now he says, I never saw who did it.
No, he's busy diving
under
a car, trying to stay alive.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
So it's pretty hard to see. And we know also that eyewitness identification is least reliable when there's in a hyperviolent scene where your adrenaline and all the stuff is going crazy. And so we know that in these type of situations, eyewitness identification has been proven in experiment after experiment to be actually less accurate than guessing.
Right.
It sounds crazy when I say it, but it's true. You have a better chance of identifying the person if you weren't even there.
Right. Yeah. Ken Eliseas gave some very powerful testimony at his evidentiary hearing. And he really talked about how he felt so guilty. His girlfriend was killed. He was in a gang. He was out there. She came to see him. He's like, the power of this police officer to say, this is the guy. All you got to do is go in and identify him. And it was not just that immense pressure from a police officer and wanting vengeance for yourself, but like, I can't possibly not do this when my girlfriend's shot and killed. The family is upset with me as it is. And what, I'm going to blow up this investigation. Enormous pressure on this kid.
And this is also a period in time when the Chicago PD was famously torturing not only suspects, but also witnesses.
Absolutely.
So, and that probably wasn't lost on Sayers, that there was a real consequence to not going along with the program. So even if there were some reservations, those would have quickly melted away under the very real threat of being targeted.
Absolutely. I mean, Guevara would sometimes target uncooperative people who he wanted as witnesses who were uncooperative. They then got targeted. There's a history of that.
So you were arrested September 11th, 10 days after this horrible crime. Your friend was arrested the day after.
And the night I got locked up in 9/11 when I got arrested by Guevara.
Yeah.
I went to Grand Essential. They basically asked me about the murder. I told them I didn't do nothing. And then they basically told me, listen, we got your buddy in the room saying that you did it. I'm like, I don't care who you got there. You can have Jesus. I don't give a fuck. I didn't do this shit. I didn't do that. I didn't do this crime. You got the wrong person. So they put us in the lineup, and that's when I met Willie, my co-defendant. And I looked like, what the fuck going on? I don't know. I said, man, did you do this? Or no, I didn't do none of this. I don't really, no. And then
that's Willie Negron.
Willie Negron.
Right.
And me and him like, what the fuck going on? I said, I don't know what the fuck going on. So I just put us in the lineup. Of course, the witnesses point us out, and then they charge us for the murder. And now I'm handcuffed to the wall in the room by myself. Just got the shitty look, tears in my eye. I'm like, I can't believe this shit is happening to me. This, I'm just working, going to school. Why this? And the thing, like she said, I never met this guy in my life, Guevara. So I don't know why the hell I don't know why he snatched me up for no damn reason. So I'm there just depressed. And then the door opened up. Shesky stick his head in, looked at me and said, gotcha. And I like this, and he closed the door. I like this motherfucker. Then that's when I put it together.
Gotcha.
It's fucking sinister, isn't it?
It's sinister. And what's hilarious to me, and maybe not hilarious, but dark hilarious, is that when we deposed him, I asked him about that. And he didn't really deny it. He said, I don't know if I said that. I may have said, I told you. I'm like, well, it's kind of the same thing to me. It's pretty similar.
And the funny thing about that, before I ever got locked up for this case, I was walking with my girlfriend, and she ended up drove up to me and said, "Man, you know, I've been catching you guys, haven't caught you yet, but when I do get you, you're going down for a long time." And that's when all this bullshit happened, you know. So Shesky was, you know, that's how Guevara got involved, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Guevara, police officers would go to Guevara to do the dirty work. It wasn't just him doing it. They were all dirty, but they would get Guevara to do the heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
You're stuck there, Cook County Jail?
Yes.
Right. And Cook County Jail, for those who are unfamiliar, is one of the most dangerous jails or prisons in the world, not just in the country. And describe, now you're in there for 14 months awaiting trial, right? So how did you deal with that scenario?
This is crazy because I've never been locked up in my life, ever. Never been to the county jail. I was scared. I was nervous because, you know, I'm walking into an environment where I never been in before. So it's unknown to me. So you walking in there, you got all these guys. I went to Division 9, 3A. It's a school wing. You walk in there, you got all pack of people just looking at you, what you be about, they're screaming at you. You're like, what the just a whole different environment in there.
Different gangs.
Different gangs, you know, they run everything basically in there. If you don't follow the rules, you'll get your ass whooped, stabbed, maybe killed. That's the worst thing, you get killed too. It's just mind blowing. It was just a whole nother world, man, you know. And not just that, you got, you know, there's a little like your privacy, basically. There's no privacy in there at all. You go in there, you got take a shower in front of everybody, take a shit in front of yourself. It's just like the process of just getting processed. You go in there with a bunch of guys, they line up against the wall. You gotta get asshole naked right next to somebody else, right next to you. Officers coming down, make you bend over, spread your cheeks, you know. It's just, man, embarrassing, you know. And then not just that, you gotta see the doctor. And back then, they call him the dick doctor. So you go in there, you take a Q-tip or something and put in your pee hole. Yes, back then. And that shit was just like, I'm like, what the fuck?
19 years old too. So young, never had this experience.
Never in my life. I weighed 135, probably soaking wet, you know, skinny kid. So then that's when they sent me to 3A and to school wing, and it was terrifying.
No, the stress of that is beyond, and aside from the physical danger and everything else. So now, having endured so much already in your young life, and now having to fight for your very survival inside of Cook County Jail, a place you had no business being anywhere near, the trial finally arrives. And Jennifer, why don't you take us through this, because I can guess how this went.
Yes, well, it went like many trials did in the 90s. It was an incredibly weak case and hinged entirely on the testimony of two witnesses who were manipulated, coerced to some degree into making identifications. We had Jackie Grande, who actually admitted to Robert's prior lawyer, the one that preceded his trial attorney, that she had essentially been shown who to pick out. And then Kennelly Saez, prior to trial, admitted that Guevara had shown him a photograph and said, this is who you need to choose in the lineup. He admitted it prior to trial. And then, guess what happened? Shockingly, he was arrested himself, in custody, and they were like, you're going to have to go back to your original story, or, you know, we can really fuck your life up. I mean, that's basically what happened. And so by the time he hit the stand, he was back with the lie.
At the time, he was on probation.
Was he? He wasn't in custody?
He was in custody. They locked him up just for probation. And they had him in county jail for a minute. So they basically purposely home there because my trial's right
Yeah.
there.
They were
around the
holding
corner.
him in custody on a probation violation on his own case. Holding him in custody, basically saying, we can make your life a living hell too.
Mhm.
Get back on Team Guevara. And they did. So when he hits the stand, we now have 2 witnesses who, even in the best circumstances, even if they were not manipulated, wouldn't have been giving reliable testimony. Because as we pointed out earlier, the circumstances under which this shooting happened, the shooter is shooting from the back of a car in a dark street, seconds, people flying under, trying to avoid getting hit by
Running
bullets.
for their life.
Yeah, I mean, under the best of circumstances, you wouldn't be able to rely on those identifications. And now you have police officers saying, this is who you need to pick out. And, it's amazing. Ken Eliseas admitted it prior to trial, but they got him back where he needed to be by threatening his own freedom. And Robert's alibi, they put the alibi defense on, but, at the end of the day, the police win in the 90s, and they did. And he went to prison. He's sentenced to life.
First of all, the state attorney was seeking the death penalty at the time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I missed that part. They were actually seeking the death penalty on a 19-year-old with no criminal history.
The death penalty, which is
The
reserved
death
for
penalty.
the worst of the worst.
The worst of the worst. It's
Shouldn't
astounding.
be reserved for anyone.
Right.
Because we shouldn't have a death penalty, but that's beside the
Agreed. It should be for no one.
Man,
But-
I was scared. I was scared.
They wanted to kill him.
That murdered me, basically.
Yeah.
point.
So,
Do you think, Jennifer, we know the cops knew that you were innocent, right? There's no question about that. They
knew.
didn't care at all.
Yeah, they didn't.
Do you think the prosecutors knew?
Oh,
I mean, I don't know how they couldn't have, but I think in those days, see no evil, hear no evil. They get this case. They're not asking the questions.
they just want to close it at the end of the day. And I feel like they didn't know. They know.
I mean,
They knew.
I don't know how they wouldn't know,
So on November 30th, 1995, both of you guys were convicted of first-degree murders for the deaths of Rodriguez and Merkis and attempted murder and aggravated battery of Saez and Grande, and each sentenced to life without parole.
Correct.
At the age of 20?
Yeah.
So you're looking forward now to, if you should live that long, 60 years
Yeah.
as a guest of the state. 60 years, by the way, that the taxpayers would be paying to keep you.
20. I think they pay like 20-something thousand a year.
I think it's much more than that. It goes
Might
up
be.
as you get older too.
Yeah.
Geriatric care is so expensive.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, depending where you are. I mean, look, in New York City at Rikers Island, it's $565,000 a year to keep somebody locked up there. Yeah, it's insane. It varies a lot all around the country, but one way or another, it would have been millions of dollars in taxpayer money. And then there also is the money that you won't be paying into the, in taxes and sales tax and income tax and all that other stuff too. I mean, that's the least of the problems.
And not
here,
just that, my family also, support me, as far as sending me money for commissary. At the time, to collect calls was outrageous. Man, it was so expensive for phone calls,
Yeah, they were exploiting prisoners back then.
And family members, when you go to visit them, everything costs money at the end of the day. And a lot of guys, I was blessed to have a family that was there for me, especially my Aunt Gladys. She did everything.
Yeah.
She did everything for me. Everything. I got sent to Menard. And Menard is like 8 hours away from the city. 8 hours. At the time, my daughter was like, I think 3 years old. And my aunt, God bless her soul, she paid for my lawyer fee. She just sent my phone calls. She sent me money, visit me.
My own mom didn't even do none of that shit, man.
Yeah, she got him through.
My aunt did everything for me at the end of the day. She kept me going. She kept me strong. She brought my daughter so I could see her, and it was hard. At the end of the day, it was just being locked up for something you didn't do, not being able to be there for your kid. You feel so helpless. But at the end of the day, you gotta stay strong. Not just for me, but for my family also. You know, let them know that I'm okay. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. You know, and there was a time where, you know, money was hard. And I told man, don't worry about it, man. Just don't visit me. I'll be okay. Just, you know, once in a while, set my call, send me money. I'll be fine. You know. And yeah, it's difficult, man. Just she's my world, she's my life. You know, I got my other aunts, Gladys and Iris, they're there too. But
Mary.
Titi Mary, Titi Iris, but you know, the one that took the brunt of it was my aunt Gladys, and I love that woman to death. I do anything for her, and not just her husband. You know, she had a husband that most husbands would have left, but he didn't. He like, you know, do what you need to do to help your nephew.
Yeah, they mortgaged their house to buy.
Like, these are not rich people.
No.
These are.
My aunt sacrificed. She lived in the basement of her father's house, unfinished basement, to help pay the loan that she took out to pay for my lawyer. So they had to live in the fucking unfinished basement.
And then on the weekends, or I'm sorry, well, I don't know about the weekends, but then would also go, his aunts would go to protests. You know, they were out there advocating as well, like actually trying to bring attention
to the case.
So, you know, they're making enormous sacrifices. These are women who worked extraordinary hours doing, you know, difficult work, making, you know, nothing.
Then one day I was in a seminar, and I'm in the yard, and I met this guy, Angel Rodriguez, right?
Yeah.
Angel Rodriguez. And we started talking, and we were basically from the same neighborhood. And he told me about his sister is trying to form a committee of, and then he told me about his case also. He said, I got Guevara. I was like, what? I got Guevara too. And like, holy shit. So we started, you know, talking about it. And then my sister she tried to start this committee of wrongful convicted people with family members. Maybe, you know, you got somebody who want, you know, come over and talk to, you know, his sister. I like, sure. So he gave me his sister's phone number. I gave it to my aunt and some aunt guys to get in touch with them and see what could happen, you know. And she got in contact with them, and they formed this committee. We demand justice. And a lot of families, not just us, but other families got together, and just from there, it just blew up. Yeah,
it's an incredible story of sort of the community, and largely women.
Yes.
The aunts, the sisters, you know, mothers coming together, having loved ones who are incarcerated, who they believe are innocent. And something incredible happened just by sharing those stories amongst themselves.
They were our voice.
Yeah, they're like, oh, Guevara's on your case? Your son's case? Yeah, Guevara's on my brother's case. Guevara's on my nephew's case.
And then they made this sheet.
They made the connection.
Spreadsheets.
Guevara was framing their loved ones, and they were out there protesting, rallying, and even trying to bring attention, trying to bring it to the Chicago Police Department. They went to the FBI. And what's really, again, fucked up is that the FBI already knew Guevara was a crooked cop. And they
looked the other way.
They looked the other way.
So the pressure's building. Cases are unraveling in Chicago. Payouts are starting to happen, right? Related to the misconduct, and that's too nice of a word, to the criminal activities of these cops.
RICO activities.
Yeah, RICO activities, right. I mean, we know they were selling drugs, they were protecting drug dealers.
And they're an organization.
Yeah,
they are. The biggest
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for some, but you know, I won't hold my breath.
So so then what happened? Because obviously we're here now. I mean, it took way too long. And even before we get to that, you know, Robert, I got to ask you this question. So civilians who follow this work, who I run into from all walks of life, they'll meet people like you and they'll go, I don't get it, man. How come this guy's so positive? How come he's not like, in the corner of the bar, starting fights or shooting up or shooting somebody or doing, and we have a whole conference here with hundreds of people like you who are these beacons of light. My impression is that there are countless innocent men and women in our prison system, many of whom you probably knew, who just lost that drive, lost that hope, and we'll never know their names.
Yeah, absolutely true. Because I mean, I was blessed, like I said, to have my aunts, my family behind me, speaking for me, being out there for me. A lot of guys who are incarcerated don't have that. They don't have people like I had, and unfortunately, it's they may never get their chance, and people may never hear their story. And it's very unfortunate. As far as how I stay positive, because I know I'm angry. Don't get me mad. I mean, but at the same time, what they gonna do? What's the point of being angry at the world and what they done for you? It's not gonna help me out. It's not. It's gonna just make me more depressed, more miserable. I don't want that. I really don't. I don't. I just let it go, move forward, and just live life, the life I have now. I want to make life better and try to help other people when I can and when I'm able to.
And you are, and you're doing it, and it's amazing. And that's the only way that we eventually win this fight, is by this multiplier effect of people like you coming out and helping. Each one teach one.
Absolutely. Be there for them.
And you're an example too of that philosophy. I've been reading Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, and he's a concentration camp survivor, and he talks about how, he came to this realization when he was in that most, one out of 28 people in Auschwitz survived, right? And he said, they had taken everything from him, literally everything, right? And the only thing he realized is that the only power that they can't take from me is how I react to the circumstances that I'm in.
It's so true.
And I think you are a shining example of that, because you took this impossible situation and turned it into a world full of possibilities, which is what, here you are doing all this incredible shit. So, okay. So Jennifer, how did this get resolved? I mean, this is always my favorite part of the story, right? It's like we go down to these depths and then it's like, okay, bounce back. And unfortunately, many of the people we interview are still in prison.
Yeah.
And they're still waiting for that moment. But
they justice.
But we're gonna help as many of them as we can.
Yeah. So I think, I'll give you the quick version. Robert was working with Jimmy Soto.
Absolutely.
And he learned, and evidence was being revealed of this pattern and practice of misconduct of Ray Guevara. Northwestern had done some amazing work. Jane Raley had put together, started developing evidence.
Another superwoman.
Raley. And put all this evidence together that, the guys started having access to, right? They didn't necessarily have access for a lawyer or money for a lawyer, but they were able to put together pro se post-conviction petitions, meaning they wrote them themselves, but with the help of people like Jimmy Soto. Excuse me. Jimmy Soto did your pro se petition, right?
Yeah.
So he wrote it and basically saying there's this pattern and practice of misconduct. I was framed by this guy, and he manipulated the eyewitness testimony, goes into a petition, of course, and the judge immediately dismissed it. It went up on appeal. The appellate court said, no,
I have my right.
I think it should go back for further inquiry. It should go back for additional proceedings in the post-conviction, under the Post-Conviction Hearing Act. And then at some point, I think Robert got my name from Jimmy Soto.
Exactly. I got, Brian Johnson.
Yes.
His case.
Another Guevara victim.
His case got overturned. And
Juan Johnson, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Juan Johnson. And then he put a lawsuit. He won the lawsuit. At the time, he had the biggest verdict at the time in Illinois. And they stated that Guevara did tamper with the witnesses.
Yeah.
So when that happened, Jamie wrote me a kite like, man, this is it. You know, we be saying that we've been saying this about Guevara since day one, but we never actually have proof to back up the argument. So that's when, we got together. He wrote my excessive post-conviction. And before all that happened, Jamie like, listen, this is lawyer named Jennifer Bajin, up and coming. I read about her. She got a couple of cases. She's known by Guevara. You should write to her. Maybe she'd take your case pro bono. I said, cool, give me the address. And we were in two different cell houses, but we meet up in church. So we in church, he gave me the address. But at the time, you couldn't have no pens or stuff like that in church. But we ended up getting one and a little piece of paper. He wrote down her name and address, gave it to me, put it in my pocket. But unfortunately, I ended up losing it. So I was like, I no problem. I see him next week at church. I get it again. But unfortunately, officer and a pastor got beat up at church. So the joint went on lockdown. We were on lockdown for about 3 months, I think. So I never got her information back. But my appellate defender that working on my appeal, he gave me a call and we talking. And we basically talking about the pros and cons. If shit don't go your way, this is what you need to do. If stuff positive go your way, I know some pro bono lawyers that can help you out. I tell you what, since you out there, you rubbing elbows, please. So he talked about Lovey, Northwestern, and then he mentioned this lady here, right next to me, Jennifer Bajin. So when he mentioned her name, I was like, damn, okay. But he didn't know I knew of her already. So I basically asked him what's to her, And he basically described her just like Jimmy did. She's a pit bull in a dress. She'll fight for you. She's a good lawyer. But he goes, well, that's my pick. I'm not trying to influence you, but I just letting you know. So fast forward, things went my way. And I basically asked him to send her a letter and say a copy of my opinion.
The appellate court opinion that sent it back for further proceedings.
And that's when she gave me a call. And
I came and visited him.
And that first phone call was awesome, though.
What year is that?
Over 10 years ago.
Basically.
Yeah.
2013. And that first phone call was amazing because you get these calls from lawyers, you be all professional. Her, it's like talking to one of the guys from the street. She's cursing left and right, like she sounded like a truck driver, I'm like, wow, cool. So my only question to her was, when shit don't go your way, are you going to tuck tail and run? She's like, fuck no, I'm going to fight this case all the way till you come home. I said, all right, cool, bet. I want you to represent me, and the rest
is history.
So now, how did you ultimately crack this case?
Oh, now that's a story that you could do a whole podcast on it, but I'll give you the abbreviated version. So we were in front of a judge, Judge Lynn, who had was not his original trial judge, but had presided over his post-conviction proceedings and had summarily shut him down over and over. And I was not a fan of his work, shall we say, as a judge. He was not a fan of me. We started a post-conviction.
Great place to start there, yeah.
Yeah. And I told Robert from the start.
Yeah, we didn't talk about
this. I am not someone who likes to give my client, I want them to have hope, but realistic hope. And I told him, I don't think we're going to fucking win in front of this guy.
And I agree with her too.
Yeah, I'm like, he's already ruled against you. For him to admit he had gotten it wrong, he's such an egotistical maniac. He's not going to do it. Mm-hmm. So we have to prepare to win before the appellate court. And we just need, we're playing for the appellate court because I did not think in any way, shape, or form he was going to rule our way. And so we started an evidentiary hearing that lasted 2 years. Not straight every day, but one day of testimony, the next day. I mean, it went on for quite some time. And this was in the Anita Alvarez days, pre-Kim Fox. So the state was, they weren't hearing anything about innocence.
Shit.
Nothing. And I don't know how many times he threatened to hold me in contempt, but it was a number of times. And I got to the point, I'm like, bring it. You know, you keep threatening it.
Yes.
You keep threatening it. Do it. I dare you. Do it.
Yes.
And
badass. I'm telling
I mean,
you. My family was terrified. Like, Tori, don't do this. I don't want to get locked up. No, she's doing what she needs to do. Let her be.
Giving me agita with this story, but go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, he would be like, I mean, he'd be like, Ms. Bonji, you are so unprofessional sometimes. And I said, and you are sexist. I would put everything on the record, and he just did not know what to do with me because he was a judge that he didn't really want to lock me up, but he wanted to threaten it, you know, just to try to control me. And I was easily controlled. Just do your job. I'll do mine. We don't need to have this fight. We don't need to have this brawl. So we have the city of Chicago hiring a private law firm, Sidley & Austin, a big fancy law firm, to do this investigation that concludes that Robert's more likely than not innocent. It's presented to the state, and we even brought it before the judge as part of our post-conviction evidence. Didn't move the needle at all. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And I remember that weekend just having such a pit in my stomach that I just knew that this judge was gonna fuck us. I knew it. And I was so upset, and I just felt like there's gotta be something I can do. There's gotta be something to turn this. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna pack that courtroom to the rafters. We are gonna have a big protest that day. We are going to bring attention, because if he's gonna fuck us, I want everybody to see it. I want the newspapers there to see it. I want it to be witnessed, okay? We're not gonna do this in the quiet, the silence of a courtroom where no one's paying attention. And so, I mean, I did a whole media push that weekend just to bring attention, you know, to this travesty. And we had this protest. Monday we show up, big protest outside. We go to the courtroom. The courtroom is filled, top to bottom. Okay. And I argued the hell out of this case, and the state got up there and made a bunch of nonsense arguments. But you could feel the energy. There was something about the energy. You're talking about Celeste. Yeah. At one point, the state's attorney turned around to the audience, the gallery, and she's like, do you think I would be up here if I believed Ray Guevara was a bad cop? And you could hear everybody go,
Yes.
like, yes. There was like this collective, silently though. It wasn't like disruptive, but it was just this incredible energy. And the judge was so angry about it. You could just tell. I was convinced he was going to still fuck us. After that argument, we go in the back, and he's back there, you know, shackled up, getting ready to go. Judge isn't going to make his ruling that day. And Celeste says to me, that's the state's attorney. She goes, will he take time served? After all that, we can reduce it. Wants to now cut a deal. And I went back to him. He's sitting with the guards. And I said, they're offering you time served. You can cop out to something lesser and you can get out.
Cop out for one murder.
Yeah.
And walk out today.
Yeah.
And you've been in for now
23 years.
23.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck no.
Fuck no.
No.
And I was like, I looked at the correctional officers. I said, what would you do? He's like, I'd take it.
Yeah. All of them say they'll take it.
And then I immediately leaked it to BuzzFeed that they had made that offer.
Wow.
Because, you know, that's despicable.
Yeah. It happens all the time, but it's despicable.
It is. It's despicable. And they wanted to agree to post-conviction relief and dismiss his case. They ultimately said, we're going to throw in the towel. And I got to hand it to them because, and I don't give them many kudos or credits about anything, frankly. But the first assistant called the judge up and said, I just want to let you know, we are going to ultimately agree to relief. So you're not going to have to rule, you know. But before he said that, he told the judge, we might want to get counsel on the phone for Mr. Almodovar. I just want to let you know some developments in our office, Judge. And he's like, no, we don't need her. Tell me what's going on. Now that's completely ex parte and inappropriate. You cannot be having one-sided conversations in a case. It is absolute judicial misconduct. And Sussman says, we want to agree to relief and vacate the convictions. And the judge goes, why are you going to do that? I'm going to rule your way.
Huh.
Yeah. Ex parte. And to their credit, they said, no, thank you.
Oh, wait.
Right.
Yeah, I misunderstood that. Oh, he was going to rule their way.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, the judge says to the state, why are you going to grant him relief? I am going to rule your way.
Jesus, talk about a rigged system.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's gross.
That's
really gross.
And
you know what I did? After Eric Sussman gave this deposition, basically saying this, the deposition, he admitted it, that the judge demanded an ex parte conversation and basically said, I'm going to rule your way. You know, I don't know, why do you need to do that? I got that deposition and I walked into Judge Lynn's courtroom like 2 years later. I sat in the front row and he hates to see me in there. He's like, Ms. Bonjean, you have something in here? I said, well, Judge, actually, I was hoping to get a minute of your time in chambers. And he's like, do I need a prover? I said, yeah, bring one. A prover is like a witness to the conversation. And I said, I'll bring my own. So we went back there and I said, here's the transcript. I said, I think it's absolutely despicable, basically, what you did. And, you may want a copy for your records of what. Oh, Jennifer, that's not how I remember going down exactly. I don't remember it going down that way. Well, a former U.S. attorney and an assistant state's attorney under oath said something different. I don't know, but you should have this. And, but he was, it was a really great moment. But
you held him in contempt.
I did. I held him in contempt.
And
yeah,
it's also flashing me back to the cop coming in with you handcuffed and being like,
gotcha.
I gotcha. And you're like, hey, Judge, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. But, what I love about this story is we were able to shift things, not because the system worked, but because the community came together to hold people accountable.
Pressure breaks pipes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And that's what it is. And, that's what it took. That's what it took. I mean, it was incredible, but it wasn't because of justice or them seeing the light. It wasn't any of that.
Mm-mm.
It was about being held accountable.
So finally, justice.
Yes.
And even after this insane journey and this crazy legal,
Odyssey.
Odyssey is the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Can you be my lawyer? So,
there you go.
So finally, you've now been vindicated. When did you actually walk out? How did that happen? How did you find out that you were going to be freed, that you were going to be vindicated, that you weren't going to have to take any pleas or anything else?
I think the Thursday, that's after the closing argument, Thursday, I get a call from my lawyer, and I went there and I got the phone call, and she's like, I got some good news. I'm like, what you mean? What's going on? She's like, you coming home. I'm like, when? She's like, tomorrow. You coming home tomorrow? I'm like, I'm like, nah. She said, no, you are. You coming home tomorrow. It felt so real. You think about this day. You think about this moment. You just you dream about it. And she actually told me what I want to hear, but it's not really, seeking in. I'm like still in denial. And then I'm just like, holy shit. And I asked her, who was no. She's like, everybody in the city is, you coming home tomorrow. So I'm the last one. Like, yeah, you the last one to know.
It's true.
I'm like, ain't this a bitch? I'm the last one to know. Damn. So I'm just ecstatic. I'm happy. I'm at cloud 9 when finance stick in, and I hang up the phone. I'm like, yes. As I'm walking out, I see a friend of mine,
that we were locked up together in Menard. He does as a barber. I tell him, man, I'm coming home, bro. I'll beat my case. No, fucker. And we hug right there in the hallway. He's crying, I'm crying. Right there in the middle of the hallway. We crying like two little girls, you know. And I like, man, hey, can I get a haircut? He like, that's my supervisor. He's right there. I asked him, so I'm coming home tomorrow. Can I get a haircut? He's like, yeah, you going home? Go ahead. Man, I walk in the barbershop, and while my guy gave me a haircut, he told everybody about my case. So everybody walking up to me, touching me, trying to get that good luck off of them, to get to them, you know. And gave me a haircut. And the thing too, the next day when I get written to the county, these two officers that was written me to the county, they let me know, listen, the warden told us, we had a meeting yesterday about you, and she told us no matter what to bring him back to Galesburg. Don't let him leave from the county. I'm like, what? She said, yeah, tell your lawyer. I said, I'm definitely going to tell my lawyer. Fuck this shit.
Yeah, she wanted, for whatever reason, I don't know if she wanted
the press.
The press, but she wanted him released out of Galesburg.
Right.
But that's like it's a long drive back, you know.
But the great when we came back and when they finally, the judge dropped the case and everything.
Oh, he was mad as hell about it.
He was mad. He wasn't happy about it because he wanted to deny my ass. But unfortunately, he didn't get what he wants, so fuck him. So we go back to the bullpen, and the officer's like, man, I need your shoelaces. I'm like, for what? Just in case you try to hang yourself. I said, you really think I'm hang? I did 23 fucking years. You think I'm hanging myself with my shoelaces? Really? I said, man, I walk out here asshole naked. I don't give a fuck. You want all my clothes? Here. Like, no, just give me your shoelaces. I was like, here, take my shoelaces. So I was getting processed out. I was walking. He took out the handcuff. I'm not handcuffed or nothing. And we walking down in the tunnel, believe up under the Cook County Jail. You're like, free man coming through. Free man coming through. I'm walking right behind him, like, yeah, I'm a free man. And we got to, I forgot, we to like a spot where I guess his boss was right there, his supervisor's like, man, do what you're doing. He's like, what you talking about? How can you not handcuff? Oh, it's a free man. He don't need to be handcuffed. Like, no, that's a safety rule. He needs to be handcuffed. They handcuffed me back up, and we walking until he get processed. And this is the part that kind of felt surreal to me. They took me to the room. My aunt got my clothes. I took the clothes off. I put on street clothes. I don't know what it is, but you guys may think it's crazy, but just the feeling of different street clothes on your body feels so much different. To me, anyway, it did. The socks, the underwears, it felt like, man, this feels good, you know? And one of the officers, the Cook County officer is a female, a lady, I mean, and she looked at me and said, man, you look good. She said, I'm gonna walk you by the lady lockup. They're gonna love you. And so, you know, she did that. All the ladies are screaming, hey, Poppy, what's up? What's going on? I'm like, oh, man. But anyway, I ended up sitting down, waiting to get my fingerprints and my picture taken. And I was sitting down. I see a bus come in. Guys on the noon coming into the county in street clothes, coming in, getting processed in. And I don't look at that. I just think about that when I first came in. That was me 23 years ago. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, that felt so real, just seeing that. And then after they took my picture, my fingerprints, and one of the officers like, so you the superstar. Like, what are you talking about? Man, you got so many people out there, they're all waiting for you. I said, for real? Like, yeah. So now I'm getting nervous now. So as I walk out, I see everybody behind that gate. I'm like, holy shit. And I'm walking, and I see my baby girl right there, my daughter, Jasmine. And the officer told me, listen, once you get past that gate, you can do whatever you want. Until then, you start properly. I was like, all right, cool, don't worry, you're not gonna have no problem with me. But I see my daughter running towards me, she passed that gate. I look at dude like, I don't see her. And she just jumped in my arm, gave me a big hug. I'm like, you dream about this type of shit all my life. And when I got locked up, she was 6 months old. I come out, she's a young lady, 23 years old. You know, and it was so emotional. It's one of the best, beside her being born, is like one of the best days ever in my life. And then running to that crowd, seeing my father, my aunts, hugging my aunt, saying that we finally did it, you know, we fucking did it, you know, we here. And seeing Jennifer, it was amazing, you know. BuzzFeed was there. They recorded everything.
They recorded the whole thing.
The whole
live
thing.
Streamed it, I think.
Live streamed. It was on Good Friday too.
Yeah.
It's a sunny day. It was just so real, man. It was just hug my baby and just, man, it was just, I will never forget it. Never.
You fucking did it. Maybe that's what we should call this episode. So, wow. Well, that's a great place to wrap this up. But we always have one special feature of the show, which I referenced before, which is, of course, called Closing Arguments. This works very simply. It's a part of the show. It's the ending, and it's the highlight, I think, and is where I thank both of you again for being here and sharing this remarkable odyssey. And then I'm gonna turn my microphone off and just kick back in my chair and listen to anything else you think we may have left out, anything you want to share. Always we save our featured guest. You're both featured guests, but you're the featured guest. So we're gonna say Robert for last. So
sure.
Why don't you go first, Jennifer? And what do you got?
There's so many stories associated with Robert's case, and I've been representing him a very long time. I've known his family a long time, and I remember, the first time I went to visit him at Menard. And they always say, either you're doing the time or the time's doing you, and I think you were referencing this earlier, where some people have, I don't know what it is, this fortitude to survive these conditions. And I frankly don't know that I would ever have it. And I've seen people who have it and people who don't. And it's heartbreaking, obviously, for people that are really, that prison is doing them. But Robert, he came in for the visit, giant smile on his face. I was like, this guy, you would think he was coming in from like the country club or something. Like, he's so positive. And he has a natural life sentence. And there are no guarantees that I'm going to be able to get him home. The system has not worked for him. And just this incredible optimism, it just blew me away. And even when I had to deliver, some bad news, or, things were stacked against us, not looking good, never, ever lost his optimism, his, again, fortitude. I don't know how else to describe it. And it's like no other person I've really ever met. And then to come out and just be doing great work. He works as a clerk for us in Chicago, and that means all types of things. He runs a lot of errands, but he also does important work of getting recent exonerees back on their feet, helps them navigate a system they're not familiar with. He even watched my daughter's dog in Chicago who bit him. So, he puts up with a lot, but he's a ride or die. We are forever bonded as friends, apart from, this incredible relationship as attorney-client. But, I consider him one of my best friends.
Oh, wow. That's deep. Wow, dang, thank you. I mean, I love this woman to death. I told her I'd do anything for her, and she's amazing. And she's the type of person, she give her, t-shirt off her back, she'll give it to. She just, you see it, she walked the walk at the end of the day, and she's real, she's 100. There's no fucking around with her. She just tell you like it is, and that's what I love about her. And, besides her, Jamie Soto, big influence in my life. Another friend of mine named Top Dog, he also kind of helped me with my posts, and also Melissa Segura.
Yeah.
She did, she's a reporter for BuzzFeed News, and she wrote the story about my story and also all the Guevara victims. Yeah. It took her, I think like 2 years to write that story, I think.
Yeah, she did a lot of good investigative journalism.
Amazing work. Melissa Segura, she's amazing.
and I love her too. She did a great job, and she, in some way helped me also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brought the light to my case. So with that, I'm good.